It was a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horned, flying purple.
It is that time again for the Gffl Fantasy Newsletter. I, of course, am here, a little flying purple people eater for your Halloween enjoyment. I know some of you are trick-or-treating. I know Rich is out stealing candy from the kids there at the old Grandview Pharmacy or whatever. But anyhow, interesting week for the GFFL. The message board blew up with Jonesy having a complete conniption fit over things. Who knows what he was thinking. We'll get to that later. Anyhow, transactions as of late, not a whole lot going on. Trade deadline came and went. Nothing exciting, of course, as usual. Transactions, everybody saw what I did last week. Rickman cut C.J. Spiller, picked up Trey Mason. Greg finally added Torrey Smith to his. Fish cut Niles Davis, added Josh Gordon. And then other than that, the commissioner did something that doesn't show exactly what he did, but he goofed around with some stuff. So that's kind of what happened. Nothing exciting there. As for the scores last week, let's just take a look at things here. We'll just get into mine right away because I'm so disappointed in my team. It's ridiculous. Me and Jonesy faced off. I had a 52% coaches rating. Jonesy had an 89% coaches rating, which tells you he won. Peyton Manning, of course, killed me 23 points. Chris Ivory, 14. Giovanni Bernard, 9. Andre Johnson, 6. Golden Tate comes out of nowhere. Scores 21. Julius Thomas only got him 1, so I got lucky there. Vinatieri gets him 10, and the Colts defense, which was horrific, against the Steelers, gets him 4. As for yours truly, I start Russell Wilson based on the week he had last week. Terrible decision. Should have started Nick Foles, would have got me 30. That puts me real close to Jonesy, and I could have maybe beat him. I started Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy has a great week. Doesn't find the end zone, but still gets me double digits, 11 points. I pick up Josh McKinnon this week. I play him. He had 82 yards, 6 points. Didn't get in the end zone, but still had a good week. But if I start Steven Jackson, and if you take Steven Jackson with Nicky Foles, that gets me. I probably beat Jonesy there. And then I start Deshaun Jackson, 136 yards. Again, no touchdowns. Not a good week. I should stick with him. Mike Wallace, I start him, 4 points. But if I start Larry Fitzgerald, he gets me 21 points, and I win in a walk. I start Brad's brother, Graham, at quarterback, or tight end. He gets 11 points. Not bad, but if I start Antonio Gates, 17, I could end up with a total score of 114 points. Instead, I leave 100 points on my bench. Pretty sad, and I could have easily beat Jonesy this week, but bad owners make bad decisions, and that's what happens. So that was me. Get me over with because it was ridiculous. As for the blowout of the week, Fish versus Tony. This one here was Tony, much like me, made a lot of bad decisions of players, and if he picks a couple different players, he may win. Tony starts Romo, only gets 10 points, surprisingly, with the way Romo's been playing. But then Tom Brady goes for 354 and 5, 35 points for Brady on his bench. He starts Brady. There's a 25-point makeup right there, so that gets him a lot closer. Marshawn Lynch, 5 points. A lot of trouble there. Rumor is he may get traded. I doubt it, but I don't look for him back. And he's got Shane Vereen there. Not much going on there. Tony didn't have any other running backs that could have complimented, so he got the most out of his running back position he could have got. Receiving-wise, Julian Edelman gets him 0. If he starts Brandon LaFell, there's 17. And then if Des Bryant gets him 7. didn't get over 50, but just gets a TD. That's not bad. But then Terrence Williams, 69 yards, gets him 6. If he starts Brandon Cooks in either one of those spots, that's 21 points, and he makes it awful tough for Jeff to beat him. Bengals D, let's see, Packers D only gets him 4. He starts the Bengals, it gets him 5, but I think he makes the right call there. If he starts Shane Graham over Mason Crosby, he gets 14 points. Kind of only 3-point difference there. Field goal, not that big a deal. For Fish, he's been riding a Joe Flacco plane. Joe Flacco finally came down to earth. Only scored 6 points. Ahmad Bradshaw, 10 points. Jamal Charles, 20 points. Hard not to play him. Brandon Marshall, not a good week for him against New England. Only got him 1 point. But really, Jeff didn't have anybody else to start there. Brown against the Colts, 23 points, 139 yards, and 2 DDs. Sanu for the Bengals, 11 points. Dan Bailey, 5, and the Falcons defense, 2. Really, Jeff gets out of here 78-44 winner. Kind of a crapshoot of a game in the long run. Rickman and Kurz, guess who comes to the winner's circle? Old Kurz arrives finally. Andrew Luck couldn't score enough to keep him in it, and Kurz finally has a huge week and blows up. And what's scary is the amount of points Kurz left on his bench. We'll start with Rickman. Rickman had 29 points at a Luck, 7 for McCoy, 1 for Trey Mason, 1 for Steve Smith, 18 for T.Y. Hilton, Calvin Benjamin, 5, Sturgis, 9, and the Bills defense, 16. Huge week there. Alshon Jeffrey could have got him 11 points at the receiver position. But other than that, Rickman didn't have really anything to answer with for Kurz. Kurz, on the other hand, he could have plugged in about anybody this week and won. Jay Cutler gets him 22 points, which is great. However, he's got Roethlisberger on the bench. Roethlisberger would have scored him 47 points. If he starts him, I think that's a GFL record for a starting quarterback in our league, 47 points in one game. I could be wrong. I'll have to consult with the commissioner on that, but 47 points, I believe, it would have been a record. Jaquez Bell gets him 5. He could have started Ben Tate, but, he still wins. Le'Veon Bell, 10. Jeremy Maclin, 30 points. He blows up. Sammy Watkins gets him 19. Watkins is starting to trend up like he was projected to do in the draft. Marcellus Bennett, 12 points. Tucker, 12. Brown D, 9. Basically, he gets 61 points out of his receivers. If I did my math right, that's a huge week for anybody. So, congrats, Kurz, for the win in the circle. Nobody's winless now, but a couple of us only have 1 win. So on probably the second closest game of the week was Chris and Wade. Chris had a 95% coaches rating versus Wade's 97%. Those are tough weeks there for Chris when you lose this way. For Chris, he had Breeze with 29, Hillman 10, Ellington 13. Pierre Garçon only got him 2. He didn't have anybody else really on his bench that could have replaced him. Dwayne Boak would have got him 6, but 4 points, he still doesn't win. There are 4 points, he still wins, but he goes up a little bit more. Gronkowski, 28, doing what Gronkowski does. Hauschka only gets him 8. Pretty sad week there. Texans, 6 points. So Chris gets 101 points for him. Pretty good week for him. For Wade, 30 points for Rodgers. McFadden, 5. Murray, 15. DeMarco Murray just keeps putting up the numbers. 221 yards, just unreal. Jordy Nelson, bad week for Jordy, only 1 point. Randall Cobb picks up the slack with 17. Patterson, only 6. Guskowski, 15. And the Eagles defense, only 2. Really wasn't much anything Wade could have done to catch up here. It was just a tough week all around for him. The only thing he could have done is start Reed over Nelson, and you're not going to do that any day of the week. So, and now the game of the week. this one was a complete and utter dog fight. Brad has a 91% coaches rating versus 83% for Greg. Tail of the tape. Brad has Stafford 24, Forte 18, Arian Foster 31, Wes Welker 1 point, Roddy White 5, Calvin Johnson got him a big goose egg, Matt Bryant 3, Seahawks 7. A couple things that caught Brad here. Obviously, Calvin Johnson, you must not have saw late in the day, or late in the morning that he was not going to play over in good old jolly old England. And he could have started Eddie Royal there and got at least a point out of him. Or Percy Harvin against Buffalo could have got 4 there. But his receivers are killing him, stinking up the joint. As for Greg, Andy Dalton 22 points, Forsett 6, Lamar Miller 5, Demaryius Thomas 10, Emmanuel Sanders 28. Torrey Smith got him nothing. I feel bad because he goes out and picks the guy up, and Torrey Smith can put up great numbers, and then squadoosh. McManus is his kicker 5, Patriots D 13. Both of them at the end of regulation tie at 19. So then it goes to the bench. Speaking of which, there's the commish. Goes to the bench. Phillip Rivers 24 massive points, same as Stafford. Mark Ingram 19, Ben Oliver 5, Eddie Royale 1, Percy Harvin 4, Kendall Wright 4. As for Greg, Ryan Tannehill 10, Jamaria Hill 5, Demarius Walker 8, and Dan Carpenter 14. So benches total, Brad's 57, Greg's 37, and the tiebreaker goes to Brad, his total bench score of 57-37. A great week all around. The scary thing is here is if Greg picks his best team he could possibly pick, if he has a 100% coaches rating and Brad picks a 100% coaches rating, Greg beats Brad 106-97. So this goes to show just 1 or 2 players, and it's a world of difference how we line up here. So a little commercial break today. Like to give a big shout out to some of our peeps, out there. With election season coming up, I thought this is rather prudent. Vote for Gertrude, and don't forget her BFF, Betty Jones. Make sure you vote for them in the election, Betty Jones and Gertrude. Gertrude and Betty, BFFs in the Republican Ladies Party there in good old Fayette County. Gertrude, Betty, Gertrude. Make sure you vote for them. All right, upward and under this week. Let's see. Let's take a look at the standings and see where everybody's at. I know where I'm at. Me and Kurz know where we're at. We're playing in the rears. Leading the North, Big Mouth, John Jones. He can't spell, but he knows how to talk smack. He's at 6-2. Coming up, he's going to face Dennis this week. Greg at 5-3, tough loss for Greg. He's going to face the janitor, Jeff Risch. Rickman is going to face Jonesy, and he's 5-3. So a lot of shakeup could happen on the top of the North this week. Chris at 4-4, wild yet division to be ran there. Still not out of it. So, something could happen here. Tony, 1-7. Feel your pain, brother. Been there, done that. Still doing it. As for the old South, it is Wade at 6-2. Brad at 6-2. Wade faces Brad. Brad faces Wade. So we'll have a new number 1 in the South come next week. We'll have a clear number 1. Fish faces Greg. Kurz faces me, and I face Kurz. So One of us is going to end up 2-7, so we'll find out who the true cellar dweller is in our division this weekend. So hard to say who it could be or who it might be. So on with that. So it is time again for our friend AJ Walker. Let me see if I can locate him here and see what old AJ has to say for us this week. Man, what you talking, man? I'm sick, man. I got the Ebola, brother. You got the Ebola. I got the Ebola. AJ, you got the Ebola? Man, I got the Ebola. I'm all sick and stuff. Oh, that's nasty, buddy. You gonna be all right? I don't know, man. Stuff's bad, man. Oh, giving me the tears, and I'm sweating like crazy. I'm worried. Oh, man, it's bad. Well, let me bring in somebody else here. Welcome to Bones, our new consultant. Welcome to the Gffl. I am the ghost of fantasy draft players past. Remember Scott Mitchell when he won the game for Nate over Jacob in 1992? Where was I when it all happened best? Oh, make sure you vote for Betty and Gertrude. I am the ghost of fantasy football draft pass. I have no idea what happened there. I did not have controls of the computer. Somebody's been playing with it. I must have got hacked or something. I apologize for those of you, especially if those of you might have been scared and need to be held. I apologize for that. So onward to this week's matchup. As we all know, let's just get into the battle of the cellar dwellers. Me and old Curse. Me and the doctor, the good doctor. Iced tea, very good for you. So, for me this week, obviously, I'm going to switch around. Nick Foles will probably be in the starting lineup against Houston. As for running back, it'll probably be Denard Robinson because Pierre Thomas is out. Steven Jackson's on bye. Eddie Lacy's on bye. And Denard Robinson, we're going to start him this week, see what he does. As for the receiving core, Jimmy Graham, I may stick with him, I may not, I don't know. Mike Wallace, they always predict him to do at least 11 points, and Deshaun Jackson, so we'll see. I have to decide between Gates, Fitzgerald, Wallace, and Jimmy Graham, and so we'll see. Just glad I don't have to throw Roddy White back in the mix. I really would have been lost. Kicker, I may start. I could start Blair Walsh. I don't know. And then the Panthers D, just keep riding that horse until it bucks me. As for Kurz, he's got quite a few players on bye this week. So he's going to have Roethlisberger starting for him. Most likely, Ben Tate will find a starting lineup, I'm assuming. Reggie Wayne's out. Keenan Allen will be back in the starting lineup for him. And most likely Vernon Davis. So. And then he'll have Bell and Macklin, Tucker and the Browns D. So could be an interesting game. We'll see what happens. But I like Kurz this week just because I don't like picking on myself. Even though if I was Pete Rose, I would totally bet on myself. Totally bet on myself. As for Fish and Greg, Fish. He's going to have Flacco again because, of course, Matt Ryan's on the bye. Mike Bradshaw, I'll stick with him. He may plug in Frank Gore or Alfred Morris there. He's going to stick with Jamal Charles. You're going to keep riding that. Vincent Jackson, you're going to stick with him because Josh Gordon ain't playing yet. Brown and Sanu because he's got all these other players on bye. So pretty much Bailey, Niners. Rich is going to stick with what he's got. As for Greg, Dalton, and Forsett and Miller, Dalton, you're going to stick with Dalton over Tannehill. Forsett and Miller. Yeah, you're going to stick with those two. You're not going to start Jamal Hill or Hartline over any of those others. Demarius Thomas, you're going to play. Emmanuel Sanders. AJ Green may play this week. I don't know. I've heard different reports, but I don't know. And then McManus, kicker, because Carpenter's out. And then Patriots D, because you don't have another D, Greg. So, so whoever you take care, I like 92.90's projected winner. I'll just favored two. If we're taking the spread, I'd take Greg, but head to head, I don't know. I'll take Rich there. Probably a bad call, but I'll take Rich there. As for Jonesy, Big Mouth, and then I Am Management Rickman, professional self-entrepreneur, Dennis or Denny Rickman. Don't call me Denny Rickman. Jones is going to stick with Peyton, of course. And then he's got Ebony and Ivory at running back. He might think about Hulu, but I doubt it. Giovanni Bernard, keep riding that. Andre Johnson, you're going to play him against Philly. Golden Tate, not Taint, is on bye. So you're either going to start Colston or Hearns or Witten. I play Witten out of those. That's me, but you do what you want. And then Julius Thomas, Vinatieri kicker, keep playing him. Prater's on bye. Colts defense. I think you better start the Broncos defense, you ask me. Let's see. Over to Dennis. Don't call me Denny Rickman. This guy's on chain of restaurants. He don't like to be called Denny's. I'll be darned. Andrew Luck. He's going to probably stick with Luck over Newton. I don't blame you there. McCoy, yep. Trey Mason, I don't know. Trent Richardson may or may not play, but we'll see. Steve Smith, he's going to keep putting up numbers, especially against Pittsburgh. Their secondary sucks. T.Y. Hilton, stick with him because you got Luck. You might as well. Calvin Benjamin, having a good year, surprisingly good year. Stick with him there, I think. I don't think there's anybody else in your lineup you want. They say Hopkins maybe against the Philly with the Houstons, but I don't know. I think you stick with where you're at. And then Sturgis, the bike rally, and then Cardinals defense because they're on the bye. So that should be a good matchup there between Jonesy and Rickman. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Let's see, where are we at next? Tony and Chris. Let's see. Tony's got a couple of players on bye. Mason Crosby and the Packers D, so he's going to put the Bengals in and Shane Graham in. As for quarterback, I highly recommend you switch to Brady this week. I know you're a Cowboys fan, Tony. I know you're up to Jerry Jones butthole, but you need to make a change here, buddy. You need to go with Brady. It needs to happen. Running back Marshawn Lynch, as far as he don't go off the deep end and go out into the trailer park and hit that for pie, I think you're fine. Shane Vereen, Ben Vereen's brother, I think you're fine. Julian Edelman, if you start Brady, you start Edelman. Dez Bryant, you got to start him. And then Williams, I think if you start Brady, then you need to take Williams out and put in one of your other receivers, either LaFell. You should probably put LaFell in and take him out. So, as for Chris, his newly acquired Drew Brees, putting up points for him. Hillman for Denver and Ellington. You're going to stick with that. Doug Martin ain't going to help you none anyway. Pierre Garçon. You have squat for. You got to put Dwayne Bowe in here in your lineup somewhere, man. Garçon. Julio Jones is on bye, so there you go. That's where he's going. And then you got Gronk, Hauschka, and your Texans D. I like Tony this week to beat Chris, but that game right there is a total crapshoot. I wouldn't touch it. And then the battle for first place in the old South. The South will rise again. Let's see here. Wade, Rogers is on bye, Nelson and Cobb are on bye. So Brad's catching him at a good week. So he's going to have to start Kaepernick. And he's going to have to start Anquan Bolden, and Jordan Reed. Those are your backup receivers. Good night, son. You're in bad shape. So that's where he's going to start. DeMarco Murray is going to, however he goes, is how that team's going to go this weekend. For Brad Cott waited a good week, and if Murray has a good week, he'll be fine. Murray finally has an off week for the year. He's in trouble. So for Brad, Phillip Rivers, Arian Foster, the Aryan Brotherhood Foster, Mark Ingram, Wes Welker, Eddie Royale with Cheese, Percy, Troublemaker Harvin, and Matt Bryant and the Seahawks D. Considering Brad's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players on bye this week, he still has a pretty solid team this week. I like Brad this week because Rivers is going to outduel Kaepernick all day, every day. I think that's how that game's going to go, is down the quarterback play. So I like Brad to take over as the new leader in the South Division come Tuesday next week, this time next week. So as for that kind of wraps up the show for this week. Anybody got concerns, questions, feel free to give me a call. Our friend Mr. Wade said, hey, keep your heads up, Kurz and Chris, play it till the end. So other than that, have a good Halloween. Make sure you don't steal too many kids' candy. Feel free, any excess candy you can send this way. My address is on the bottom of the screen there. No, it's not. So have a good week. Good luck, fellas.